This is the Angry Birds Bird Minute, sponsored by Angry Birds for their 15th anniversary, where we tell you all about a cool bird that may or may not be angry. This week's bird is the secretary bird. The secretary bird is a relative of hawks and eagles, but it is in a family all of its own. Standing up to 4 feet tall, this striking bird is mostly light gray with black feathers on its tail and the upper parts of its legs. Orange face skin and a spray of black feathers protruding from the back of their head gives this bird a one-of-a-kind glam look. Found primarily in grasslands and savannas in sub-Saharan Africa, it is unique in that it is the only bird of prey to hunt on foot. By stomping on the ground, they flush prey such as snakes, lizards, small mammals, insects, and birds before delivering a killing blow with the sharp talons on their feet. But are they angry? On a scale of 1 to angry, with looks like these, we can't rate the secretary bird anything other than fierce.
This is Wild Green Streams. I'm Rhett.
I'm Io.
And today we're going to play a game called Animal, Animal, or Animal. Animal, Animal, or Animal is 20 questions, but there are a few specific rules for the show. In our case, you're not allowed to do anything that's not an organism, and if you want to ask how big or how small something is, usually you'd say, is it larger than a microwave? Is it smaller than a pencil? But in our case, you say, is it larger than a box turtle? Is it smaller than a grape? It has to be another living organism.
You can only use other animals or organisms as size references, because Americans will use anything but the metric system.
So, Io, do you have an organism picked out?
I do have an organism picked out, and I am delighted. And I'm going to try to keep track of the guesses also, the number of the questions, because last time we played this, we did not necessarily keep track of all of the questions. So I'm going to try to do that this time. So, ask away.
Okay, first question. Does it live on land?
No.
Second question. Is it an animal?
Yes.
Is it larger than a box turtle?
I'm going to say yes, it is bigger than a box turtle, but they're not the same shape.
Okay, that is good. Does it live in salt water?
Yes. For part of its life, it does live in salt water.
Ooh, that was a big hint. Is it a fish?
Yes, it is a fish.
Does it breed in salt water?
Yes, it does.
Is there an unrelated version of it with the same name that's electric?
Yes, there is. It took me a second to parse that question, but yes, there is an unrelated version of it that includes electric in its name.
When it's in freshwater, is it in Europe?
Yes, it is.
Is your animal the European eel?
It is! Hooray!
Oh.
I just thought that would be a very funny one to pick, to see if you're like taking a test in school and all the multiple choice answers are C. Do you start second guessing yourself because they're all C, or do you double down and stick with it?
Oh, I second guessed myself for a minute. I was like, did he put salmon as the answer just to trick me? That's why I asked exactly those questions.
You never know.
Also, for anyone who's listening, we're recording these at the same time, but if you listen to the last episode, that would have been a lot easier for you.
Yeah. Do you have your critter?
I do.
You guessed yours, and I think it was only 9 questions, so that's the number to beat. Is your organism an animal?
Yes.
Is your organism terrestrial?
It is terrestrial. It lives on land.
Okay. Is your organism a vertebrate?
Yeah, my animal does have a backbone.
Okay. Is your animal a reptile?
My animal is a reptile.
Okay. Does your animal live on the continent of North America?
It does live in North America.
Is your animal a box turtle?
Yeah, it is a box turtle.
Yeah. Got it. That was really fun.
Yeah, I was hoping that you'd ask me how big it was.
It's bigger than a baby box turtle.
That's true, and it's smaller than a really big box turtle sometimes.
I love that we picked animals that were so recently mentioned.
It's true. Do you want to do another round?
I would love to do another round. Okay, I've got it.
It's funny how hard it is to figure out one single organism when you have to on the spot.
Yeah, or even just what is one that I think will be tricky enough that it won't be guessed immediately, but not complicated enough that it can't be guessed at all.
Yeah.
If it isn't guessed at all and it's my animal, then that's great for me. but finding the right level of challenging.
That is the trick, because a lot of the time the first animal I'll think of is something that I've worked on recently, and a lot of those are like Panama City crayfish or something that's so niche that no one is ever going to get it, and it's totally reasonable not to.
And for some of them, it's the Metazoo, which is the online game where you can guess animals like via taxonomy. Some of them, the guesses are very specific. Like they have a lot of individual species of birds and a lot of like individual species of mammals because people are familiar with them. But you'll get to the insects and it'll just be like bumblebee or honeybee. And those are your two bee options when there's thousands of species of bees. Or it's like brain coral is just one answer, but there's so many species of brain coral. And so in some ways, some of the more obscure ones are easier because you're like, oh, I could just guess starfish. I don't have to know the specific species of starfish. Like I'm going to a higher umbrella term on the tree versus knowing this parrot versus that parrot.
So with all that in mind, is your organism an animal?
It is an animal.
Does it live on land?
For part of its life, it lives on land.
Is it a vertebrate?
No, it is not a vertebrate.
Does it live in fresh water?
Yes, for the part of its life that it lives in fresh water.
Is your animal an insect?
Yes, my animal is an insect.
Is your animal a predatory insect?
Let me double check.
Oh, it's definitely not a dragonfly then.
Or I'm trying to fake you out.
It's true, maybe.
Okay, my animal is not a predator.
Okay.
I forgot what question we're on. I'm going to say that was like 5 or 6.
I think 5 or 6 is reasonable. Is your animal found in North America?
Yes, my animal's found in North America.
Does it mostly live around creeks?
Yes and no. Flowing fresh water, yes.
Yeah, okay. Is it associated with a certain month of the year?
Yes, some would consider it associated with a certain month of the year.
Is your animal a mayfly?
It is! Yay! That was easier than I thought it was going to be. I was like, oh, this one's going to be so good. But it was too distinctive.
Do they even have mouths when they're adults?
I believe some of them might, but some of them don't. Some of them only live for anywhere from after they've molted into the adult form, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to a few days or maybe a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some of them might, like how some moths don't have any mouths as adults, but others do.
It's pretty interesting. Like we think of adulthood as the majority of our lives, but a lot of organisms, adulthood is just this tiny little section of time when they move a lot, they reproduce once, and then they die. It's really just a dispersal stage.
Yeah, some can only a day or a few days. But yeah, the nymph stage lasts for years. And yeah, the adults don't feed. They die shortly after mating.
I guess that makes sense.
But yeah, I think that's so fascinating of so many insects, particularly insects that have aquatic larvae, can be aquatic for years and years. Or even the periodical cicadas are, for 17 years, they have been juveniles and they're only adults for a few weeks and then they die off. And I think it really puts into perspective or gives it just an interesting view on humanity. So much of your childhood is like preparing for your adulthood and being like, what if childhood isn't just a preparatory stage for being an adult? What if it's its own stage on its own?
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not just working so you're like set up one day for retirement, which like also good to do, but enjoying the other stages of life because you're not just always working for one thing that's the goal in the end. The present moment is the goal. There's some philosophy and some deep thoughts for you today.
Pretty deep, about as deep as the mayfly larva live.
Which pretty shallow usually, but...
But sometimes, okay, so my metaphor wasn't meant to be insulting, but...
I see how it is.
You can support the show on patreon.com/wildgreenmemes. That's memes with an M. This episode was edited by me. The music is by RX Fire. Until next time, I'm Rhett.
I'm Io.
And happy Year of the Raccoon.
They're still getting in my compost.